Welcome to Dirshu Daf HaYomi Bahalacha. Today we are going to be learning Siman Vav, which is Din Birchas Asher Yatzar, the bracha of saying Asher Yatzar after one uses the bathroom, as well as the bracha of Elokai Neshama, which we also recite as part of our brachos, Uperushav, and their various explanations. And on this there are 4 sifim. We are going to be addressing the following 3 questions today, as we are only going to be seeing Sif Aleph. What are the different versions of Asher Yatzar? What is the meaning when we recite in Asher Yatzar of if one of them was blocked, it would be impossible to survive? And lastly, what is the meaning of when we say who acts wondrously? With that said, let's begin with Sif Aleph. If a person leaves the bathroom, you should say the bracha Asher Yatzar, that Hashem created us with wisdom. That the way that Hashem created us is with wondrous, great wisdom. Some explain, Al Shem Shahaguf Daima Lanoid Mali Ruach, for whom Mali Nekavim. If we compare the body, it's comparable to a noid, which is filled with air, and there's tons of holes, as we'll explain later on. So it's hard to fathom that if you would have any item, let's say, which holds wind, like a balloon or some type of canteen, that if you would poke holes in it, if there were holes in it, it would leak out. It wouldn't function. And that's perhaps how one could view the human body, which is the great chachma, that somehow God created this incredible, miraculous thing called our human body, that even though there are openings throughout, nonetheless we're able to function and thrive. It means that Hashem created food, and then afterwards He created Adam Arishon. Uvarbo nekavim chalulim. What does it mean? He created these openings and cavities. Perish nekavim rab in many holes. Can go in peh v'chaytim pita bas. For example, our mouth and nose and pita bas. V'gam barlo ivarim rabim chalulim. Many limbs. Kamo leiv v'karis u'me'ayim. Our heart, our intestines, our stomach. Shim yisasim echamehem. That if one of them would be blocked, Kolimer, Shimnekavim Yesh Nekev Echad Shehu Hapet. That there is this nekev, there's a hole in our body, which is our mouth. Ukashu B'mei Imo Hu Sosum. When a person is B'mei Imo, it's closed. Obviously, child doesn't eat when they're in utero. Ukashiyatzel Avir Oyim Hu Yiftach. And then all of a sudden starts opening his mouth. Let's say his mouth remained closed immediately at childbirth, he wouldn't live. These limbs which are open, if one of them was opened, couldn't survive. There's a boundary that a person's openings can close, he won't die. So there's a certain amount that it can be opened, but not too much, not too little. And when we talk about the nekavim, we think also about our pita bas and pia amma, where a person uses the bathroom from. And then when we're also referring to, again, the stomach and the intestines. This is all connection to the digestive tract and how a person uses the bathroom. It's possible, says the Mechaber, after a person, it goes out his openings, that's also b'chol shimi posech mehem hu. V'havi shimi posech echad mehem nami me'inin asiyas srach of mamash. So again, even though there's openings, the openings only go a certain distance but then it doesn't open anymore. Otherwise, we would not survive. Rofei choyle kol basar. So what does that mean? Rofei choyle kol basar. He heals the flesh. Al shem hanekavim shabar lehaitzi psoyos miachloi. That the nekavim, its purpose is to remove waste matter from our food. Ki im yisapesh babetin yomos. If instead it would remain in our body and the waste would not be removed, we would die. And therefore, the fact that one goes to the bathroom, that relieving of oneself is actually a form of refuah. What is the wonder? As we said, it's comparable to this noid. If you poke a little hole in it, a little with a needle, that's it. So it's a tremendous wonder that even though we have holes throughout our whole body, nothing happens to us. That we're able to somehow eat, and it's able to decipher what is good for our body, and whatever is not is psoilus. Fine. Says the Ramah, that there's ruach inside of our body through our into our lungs. V'kaisher davar ruchani b'davar gashmi. V'kolhu alidei shehu roifei kol basar. Ki az adam b'kav habrios nishmasu mishmeres b'kirbo. Again, Hashem is able to make sure that we remain healthy, even though it seems to be extremely difficult to understand and to fathom, which in itself is the great wonder. Now the Mishnah Berurah says, it says, "Aval min hagenu shelo lomer afil sha'achas, v'chein muchach ba'agada ba'aguda kein kosev hamagin avram v'chein mashma bir hagra ayin hataz." So of course we know, for example, minhag Chabad they say afil sha'achas. Minhag Ashkenaz we do not say that. We just say nekav nuchalim she'im yibosechem mehem omosem yev shaloskayim v'lamod l'fanecha. We don't add a fil sha'achas because it almost seems obvious it's a fil sha'achas. But essentially, the Mechaber keeps saying that language, but not everyone is knowing to say that. Efshar is the E supposed to be with a chirik. Here it says maybe the E is a b'seirei tachs aleph. So there's different ways, different girsos of how to be able to say the words. Fine. Also, the Bach and the Shlah writes, so there's different girsos as to exactly what is said. So now let's conclude this sif by going and reviewing a little bit about what we just talked about. First of all, what are the different versions of Asher Yatzar? So upon leaving the bathroom, after relieving oneself, the brach of Asher Yatzar is said. The Sephardic custom is to say She'im Yisosem echad mehem o yifaseach echad mehem iev shalosh kaim afil sha'achas. So it's not just min Chabad; it's in the Sephardic custom as well. The Ashkenazic custom, which of course I'm familiar with, is to reverse the order of Yisosem and Yifaseach. That those are the opening and the closing, they're said in differently. In addition, many Ashkenazic achroinim omit the phrase afil sha'achas. Sephardic and Ashkenazic customs also differ at the end of the bracha. Instead of finishing rofei chol basar mafli lasos, which of course is the Ashkenazic custom, the Shulchan Aruch rules that the text should say rofei chole kol basar. So again, it doesn't end off. As Nusach Ashkenaz is Rofei Chobas Mafli Lasos. Okay. Now, what is the meaning if one of them was blocked? It would be impossible to survive. So the Mechaber has told us something fascinating. The Shulchan Aruch explains the meaning is it would be impossible. What does it mean? It means if one of the internal organs, such as the stomach, heart, or intestines, were to rupture, one would immediately die. With regards to blockage, he explains that it refers to the mouth of a fetus as it enters the world. If the airway would not become unblocked at birth, the baby would not survive. Another explanation is that there is a limited amount of time a person could survive without being able to expel waste. as we saw in the words of the Mechaber. Lastly, what is the meaning of who acts wondrously? What does it mean, umafli lasos? So the bracha finishes by praising Hashem as the healer of all flesh. This praise is appropriate for Asher Yatzar because enabling a person to eliminate the waste, as we saw in the Mechaber, is a form of healing. If waste products would build up in a person's body, he would surely die. The phrase umafli lasos, who acts wondrously, is added to praise the marvels of the human body. Although it is filled with openings, the spirit of life remains within it. Others explain that this phrase refers to the wonder of combining the neshama, a spiritual entity, with the earthly matter of the body. Let's see if there's a question on today's shiur. The bracha of Asher Yatzar, to what does umafli lasos refer? And the answer was all of the above is correct. So what is all the above? A, that all the human body has many openings, his breath remains inside. B, that the body filters food, retains what is beneficial and excretes what is not. And C, that a spiritual being, the neshama, and physical being, guf, are attached. Ad kan.